Hopefully, we won't hear so much dog barking today. This is a topic I don't think I've made a video about, but I think about it a lot, so I assume you'll possibly find it interesting. I think one reason I don't talk about it is because it kind of makes me sound crazy. And this whole experience has been so shocking to my sensibilities that I don't like it, topics that make it sound like I'm literally insane. But this video is about how God manipulates the material world, like what he can do and how, I don't know how it's done, but an approximation of what's happening essentially when a miracle happens. He says a miracle is when something goes outside the bounds of the rules. I don't know if I've ever made a video on exactly how extensive the rules are for creation, but when you make something from scratch, you have to identify and kind of codify the purpose of everything, and so everything must have these rules, and so he rarely goes outside the bounds of the rules. But when there's a miracle such as a healing, or he can do lots of different things, what exactly is happening? And I think another reason I've been hesitant to make this video is because when you realize what God can do, you can get kind of angry at what he won't do. And I don't feel this way now because I don't expect anything from him at this point. But when this first started, he had so many things happening that when he kind of pulled back on what was happening, I became pretty angry. You'll understand after I tell the story. So, one reason if we're talking about miracles, he has only allowed himself a certain number of times that he can do miracles. So for miracles, there are tons of rules, such as it must serve a purpose. It generally must be used as a testimony of some sort. Then there'd be all these rules surrounding how obvious or inobvious it needs to be. And then there's only a certain number, a certain number of times he's allotted himself to perform miracles or allow them to be performed. Because if he didn't, what's to say he could end up changing the course of reality, and he can't have that happen. The story's already written. So he can't just randomly do a bunch of stuff. If it's not going to impact something, he has a better chance of being able to do it, but he still only allots himself so many miracles per time period. In some time periods there's more allotted, in other time periods there's none allotted. But there has to be rules around the miracles themselves. If you ever sit and think about trying to run something like the universe without rules, like, you can't do it. So we know, that's technically evidence that everything does have rules. But miracles, well, I can't remember the first night I knew something was up. All these strange occurrences happened during a night of stargazing, and the huge falling star was right in front of my car. Someone else saw it, so like someone else witnessed all these things, and I was like, dang, this is a lot of, kind of supernatural stuff. And then he took over my life and kind of messed with my brain, and I was like, it was rough at first. And he kept implying that I should quit my job. He didn't speak to me at this point, but he'd put thoughts in my head and confirm it physically. So, I had a bunch of cash for some reason, and it was in my closet. And I don't know. At some point, I knew how much money I had in my closet, and then I decided to spend. I took a bag of $500 in $5 bills out one day and spent it specifically for something. So I knew I had gone from $1,200 to $700. Like, there was no question. And then after God came into my life, it was a couple weeks later, I go into my closet, and there's a bag of $500 in $5 bills that looks exactly like the one I had spent shortly there before. I don't know if that's a word. So anyway, if not, it should be. So I kind of knew God was with me by this time 24/7. So I was like, where'd this come from? And he's like, oh, that's a miracle. And I'm like, oh, wow, you can just put money in my closet. So I had quite a lot of confidence that I was talking to God, and, he can do miracles. And I thought things were going to be fantastic and like limitless, whatever I needed. So then he made me quit my job, and after I left, I'd used up all my sick days, everything. I had no more time left, and I just quit in one split second. And a week later, I have $6,000 in my bank account from my workplace. And I was like, what's this? And then that night at 10:30 at night, another deposit of $6,000 went into my bank account. So I had all this money, and I was like, whoa, this is awesome. Well, the next morning I woke up, and the second deposit of $6,000 had been removed, but I still had the original $6,000. So I don't know what he did. But anyway, he said, just leave your job. I'm going to take care of you. I can give you cash. I can put money in your bank account. So, then, small things happen, have happened for the last 25 months, so regularly I don't even mention them pretty much to anyone because they're so commonplace now. But, I forgot where I was going with this. Okay, I need to explain that whatever I'm going to say, there's two kinds of miracles. There's a miracle the hard way and a miracle the easy way. So one of the rules is that God must do things the hard way, if possible. So if you were going to find $20 on the ground and God wanted you to find it, it's in your story. He has two options. He can just, in the blink of an eye, place a $20 bill where you're going to walk. Or he can have someone fumbling through a wallet at the exact spot that you're going to be walking later, and they drop a $20 bill. And that's called the hard way. Well, God, he needs a constant challenge, so he always does things the hard way. Unless it's written that he can just do a flash miracle. So it actually makes a difference if he's going to do something the hard way or the easy way. The hard way is more impressive. Like, you can see all the things he had to do to make something happen, and you're like, dang, that's impressive. But then, probably 9 months ago, I went to Taco Bell, and I haven't eaten out hardly at all in the past 2 years, so this was a big deal. I went to Taco Bell, and whatever I ordered was $4, and I took these $4 bills out of my wallet, and I remember they were folded in a really strange way. So I unfolded them, and I handed them to the cashier, and got my food and was really happy. Well, later that night, I come out of my apartment and I notice something kind of behind me, and I look over, and we used to have these little clips by our doors where they could hang papers. I look there, and there's money hanging. And I look at it closer, and there's 4 $1 bills folded the way they were before I handed them to the girl at Taco Bell. So there's no way he could have done that the hard way. That was just a flash miracle. He just, I've told you all that everything's like on this GPS system, and it's kind of framed around time. So at any given time, at every pinpoint on Earth, something is supposed to be happening, and he's written what's going to be happening. So, I don't know why he's taking my memory right now while I'm in the middle of talking. So when I found the $4 folded that way, like, it's really weird because your brain, I don't know, like, you know something weird just happened, but our brain processes it in a really odd way. So the reason I started making this video is because I was doing some watercolor drawing, and I have these pencils, and I had taken one out of its numbered place, and I had used it, and then when I went to go put it back in its numbered place, all the pencils had switched one lane, so I couldn't. And the only way that could have happened was if the whole thing had, like, jumped up and everyone had moved over. But at first I was like, oh, well, that's possible, or maybe something else happened. And then about 10 minutes later, it happened again. And then he laughed, and he said, we're going to make a video on miracles. So, what happened was, in the moment, I would have looked away. He's acting like he's a magician now. I could have looked away for one split second, and his writing had changed so that those were in a different place. So in that instantaneous split second, reality just changed. You don't hear it, nothing. It's just bam, it's there. Then after he gave me all that money, then the money started running out. And I mean really running out. And I needed my dog's nails to be clipped, and I tried and tried, and he wouldn't let me clip them myself. And then one day I'm lying next to him, and I look down at his paw, and all his nails were perfectly trimmed. Perfectly trimmed. Back, front. How did it happen? I don't know. Just bam, there it was. I'm thinking of other stuff. So he's also has me go on these feather hunts. He always says it's like hunting seashells, but instead of seashells, we're hunting feathers. And he could just place feathers down, just poof, there's a feather. But he much prefers the challenge of making sure that a bird lost a feather at that exact moment and all that stuff. So, before we started making this video, he wanted me to say that, well, he writes the stories backwards. So he knew some of you would be hearing this video and you'd be remembering something from your past that didn't quite add up or make rational sense. And you thought to yourself, well, that might be God. It was. Sorry, I don't like hearing from him very much. We're on speaking terms. But, miracles. Oh, why have miracles been so rare? There's several reasons. One is that he doesn't want it to be easy to believe in God. He doesn't want a situation where it's cut and dry and it's so easy to just say, oh yeah, he does lots of miracles. Everyone's having a miracle at their church. No. And then he makes sure there's a certain number of like false miracles so that people don't trust any of them. Like, he's super careful. But one reason is because if you know what he can do, then you get a little frustrated, because after he trimmed my dog's nails once, he's never trimmed them again, and I've had to come up with money, which he sends, sometimes uncomfortably, but he sends it. But I've known all along he could just cut his nails. Luckily now there's a place that only charges $5, so he can get his nails cut regularly. But I'm thinking of the other reasons. He doesn't want it to be super easy to believe in God. And he doesn't want all his children being upset that they're not getting miracles, but other people are. Like, that would make people feel bad. He often gives miracles to people he's not that fond of. So it's not even as if a miracle necessarily is what it appears to be, which is a huge blessing. This topic has a lot of interesting parts, as a matter of fact. I just sometimes he puts my brain on one stream and it's like I can't get off of it. So I just zone into this stream. Miracles. Seems like some miracles he's taken away. He told me he was going to take a mole away once, and the mole disappeared, and I was like, wow. And then 3 months later, the mole's back. So, nothing is simple with the Lord. Oh, I know what that was going to lead me to. So why doesn't God just do miracles and just help us out more? Well, the main reason we're down here, our purpose is to struggle with life and struggle with all the things that life throws at us. If he was constantly doing miracles to make it easier on us, then that would defeat the entire point of life. That's the whole plan. And he wrote the story, so whatever challenges he's giving you, he already knows he's going to pull you through it. So why would he need to do a miracle? See, his perspective's different. He knows the ending's always in your favor. So why would he have you find $50 on the ground when you're going to get eternal rewards for worrying about your electric bill? He knows it'll get paid one way or another, somehow. Oh, he can be creative too. Okay, so most miracles are written by God the Father. He's in charge of, how many miracles can be done and whatnot. And then let's say Jesus has an allotment of miracles that he can do, but he can't go over that. So he has to ration them out carefully. And then there'd be lots of rules around each miracle that he might pass out. But if you were to find $20 in an old purse, the chances are that if you're close with Jesus, that Jesus is the one who miraculously put the $20 in your purse. God the Father would be more likely to have written that your hand moved in such a way that you didn't notice the $20 in the purse from 3 years ago, and then you didn't pick it up for 3 years, and then when you did, there was the $20 that you needed that night. So let's see. You always kind of wonder, did that really happen, or am I losing my mind? So I've had this water bottle since this started, and at some point in time, I used to drink bottled water, but I've had no conveniences for a year and a half now. So we went to tap water, which is fine. I'm totally fine with it now. But I would fill it up and get back in bed. We were doing battle for 16, 18 hours a day. I would fill it up, get back in bed, drink maybe one drink, not even a large one. And then later on, I'd reach over and pick it up, and it'd be only 2/3 full or half full. And literally, it took me several days before I really trusted that this had to be God, just simply changing the water level in my water bottle. So, this literally went on every time I filled my water bottle for at least a year. For at least 1 year. Every time I would fill my water bottle. So, miracles can be bad. It was really annoying. He's kind of stopped that here. Every once in a while he'll remove some, but oh, he can also make it so you don't have to pee. Just remove the water. Just bam. You had to pee worse than you ever had to pee in your life to my bladder's completely empty. I mean, I'm telling you all this. The question is, how often is he going to do stuff like this? Well, it never hurts to ask, especially if you got the harebrained idea. Like, say you're somewhere and you're like, all of a sudden you're like, maybe I should pray that this happens. Well, start praying, because he might be the one that gave you the idea to pray. But no, he can do anything like that. I can't even, the things he's done, like, he's moved stuff around in my home. He's, hung clothes up in my closet that hadn't been hanging for ages. Like, just, he can do the weirdest stuff. So if someone you trust tells you that something strange happened to them, you probably should just believe them. Like, literally believe every word they say, because he can just literally change up reality. One day he showed me, I was at work and I was trying to find a page number, and I looked up and there was the number 86. And I was like, oh, I need to remember that because I need to go back later. And then when I went back later, there was like no page 86 in the packet I had. And that's when he told me that he can literally change what a person sees with their eyes. And he's done that sometimes in criminal cases. He'll have, like, when a crime goes down, like, those eyewitnesses, they're not accidentally there. He has them there, and then he has them remember what he wants them to remember. He might have them thinking about something specific when they're looking over there. He can change their perception. And that's like hard to hear. And this is why he hasn't revealed this stuff until we're getting close to the end. Because when you know that an eyewitness might have been manipulated by God, then what's the point of anything? Like, how do you have a trial then? Well, then you've got to trust that God wanted the witness to see it like they did. And then you still got to go through all the motions. Like, learning this knowledge. Like, God says all over the Bible how sovereign he is. That mankind has thoughts of their own, but the Lord walks their steps. It's I don't know. It changes your perception of everything. But, yeah. I mean, I'd read about miracles in the Bible and whatnot, but I didn't realize, one of my best friends, she didn't really believe in God, and then one day she was flat broke, and she needed like $67, and she just started crying out in the car, God, if you're real, please help me. And at some point, she pulled up in a parking lot, and something compelled her to go look on the other side of her car, and underneath her tire was $67. Now, see, here's where it gets really deep. You can think of it as, well, she needed $67 and he put $67 under her tire. But the truth is more like, he needed her to believe in him, so he put her in a financial situation where she desperately needed $67, and then he gave her the $67. And then she believed in God and knew he loved her and knew she could trust him. And she's sold it to a lot of people. Yeah, some of the things she's done are just astounding. And some of them have like 8 or 9 steps. I'm trying to think if there's anything else on miracles. I always would like to think of it like this. Keep it in your back pocket that God can do miracles and that He will be doing more and more. The rules are going to loosen up quite a bit in the end times of what He's allowed to do. But keep it in your back pocket that no one's just going to get a mouthful of miracles every time they ask. That's impossible. So be wise. Like, now, I mean, if you were just going to ask him if, you had to give a speech in 5 minutes and your bladder was full and you're like, Lord, please take a little bit of this out. You'd hardly even notice if he came through, but he definitely could come through on that. But like on something larger, like, don't waste your knowledge. I don't know. For me, like, I used to always have these thoughts like, okay, well, I'll pull this out if I ever need to use it. And you might be in a situation where you need to ask God for something. But don't just I guess unless you get a harebrained idea that you really just want a strange miracle. Now that you know this, I guess he can take water. Some for each different kind of miracle, he has different rules. So why was he allowed to take my water every single day? Well, because it was just considered one large anti-miracle. So the rules stated that he had to do it every single day or it wouldn't have been part of the same day. So he has all these technicalities. He might be able to do something like that. But if you notice weird things in your environment or, just something odd or just hazard a guess that it's most likely him and he's giving you a little wink. I guess that's about it. I thought there was one other topic associated with what he can do with the physical. I think that's about it. He's having me think about how closely he controls animals. I don't know why. Miracles. Well, I mean, he's done a lot of things that have been kind of miraculous when you have, like, animals and bugs doing strange things. Today, there was a yellow jacket climbing on my arm for the longest time. He's like, just let it be. So just let it be. He wants me to talk about bees for a second. So let's say you said to yourself, I trust God, so I'm not going to worry about being stung by a bee. I know he controls insects, and I know I'm safe. He's got my back. Well, here's the problem. God might need you to be stung by a bee. So the righteous attitude would be, I'm not going to worry so much about being stung by a bee, because if I get stung by a bee, God needed me for battle. And if I don't, God's got my back today. Now, if you're allergic to bees, just be careful. Yeah, he was talking about bee stings the other day. If you have a bee sting allergy, like, he literally, if you're going to die from a bee sting, that was written. Like, he controlled that bee and made reality happen the way it needed to. So I guess, I don't know. It does regularly fascinate me how he can manipulate the material world. And I know he can do it, but he rarely does it. As this whole trial's gone on, he almost never does anything at all for me now. Like, that's another thing about God. If you get like a special blessing or treat or even born again, there's a good chance that that it's like a love affair. You like remember back to the good times. God is like, well, he's the master of human psychology, and he knows that if you reward someone huge or give the human mind and body the stimuli that's very appealing once, it'll always seek that. So he doesn't necessarily want us to be having a great time down here. He wants us to be loving other people and having a meaningful time. Meaning is where God is found. Meaning, he likes things to have meaning. So he often has been having me find these feathers. And today, I was thinking about making a video on feathers, and then I walked out the door and looked down, and there was this huge feather sticking up, and I was like, oh, that's a big one. So I took that one inside, but he had me walk by the same spot later, and I don't think you can really see, but this is like a little tinier feather, and usually if I find these bicolored feathers, they're larger. So I picked this up, and he said, oh, I just wanted you to have it because it's so cute. It doesn't look that cute on the camera, but in real life, it's cute compared to the regular feathers I find. So he said he knows I'm going to treasure this feather, so he's going to make sure it's from a bird that he has a particular fondness or relationship with. So he likes to imbue meaning into like pretty much anything that you can get meaning into. And I think we've gotten away from that in our lives with the 21st century. Anyway, I hope you're all doing well. He's having me think of some of you. Well, he's thinking of some of you. He's with you all the time. Okay, well, I hope there's a few more days of videos coming. I know my days are better when I'm not just sitting there. Is there something no. Okay. God bless you all. Amen.